Hi everybody, I'm Taylor at Growing with the Griffins, and today we're going to show you one of our favorite garden amendments that we make at home for free. We've been using this for a long time now to fertilize our plants. We have a nearly endless supply of it, and we love the results we get from it. In this video, we'll show you how to make it, how to use it, and we'll also give some important tips along the way. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video to get all of the info so you can get great results in your garden as well. Now, when you hear the word fertilizer, you might think of the sort of thing that you can find at the store or online. It's labeled and marketed as plant food, and as gardeners, we're led to believe that our plants need it to grow really well. And the reality is that for most of us, our soil isn't good enough as is just to put a seed in the ground, water it, sit back and watch it grow. Plants really do benefit from an additional boost of nutrients to kickstart growth. The problem is that products like Miracle-Gro and other synthetic fertilizers contain synthetic nutrients that are beneficial to plants in the short term and pretty detrimental to the soil in the long run. They can also contain harmful other chemicals such as arsenic, mercury, and lead, making them unsafe for people and especially children, which, if you have children like us, seems like they're always intent on eating the soil. Basically, synthetic fertilizers are not the way to go. So, what are your alternatives? Well, organic soil amendments are an excellent and oftentimes necessary solution, but costs can really add up. And even many organic products contain sketchy stuff that isn't sustainably sourced. Enter JLF, JADAM Liquid Fertilizer. We made a video not long ago about a different JADAM liquid soil amendment, JADAM Microbial Solution. So definitely go and check that out if you haven't seen it yet. But for a brief recap, JADAM is a variant of Korean natural farming that relies on naturally occurring microbes to bring robust fertility and health to your soil. This is the book we learned all about these techniques from, and we highly recommend that you go and buy it if you're interested in using this, especially on a large scale. But for our purposes, on the home garden level, we find that JLF is the easiest and certainly the most cost-effective way to get vital nutrients to our plants. So here's how you make it. Start by collecting leaf mold soil from the forest, just like this one. Ideally, this forest is made up of deciduous trees where they drop their leaves and they're left to be disturbed for years. Just gently scrape away the accumulated leaf litter and bag up some of the soil from below. This stuff is called leaf mold soil, and it's teeming with the strongest microbes possible. They're also fine-tuned to survive in your climate. Be sure to recover the area that you disturbed so the microbes don't die off from exposure. Once you've collected your leaf mold soil, you'll need to gather your other two ingredients, plant matter and water, dechlorinated as always. For an all-purpose JLF, use grass clippings or weeds from your garden, anything that really has a higher nitrogen content. Put the leaf mold soil and other ingredients in a bucket or some sort of sealable container and fill it with water. JLF creation, just like JMS, is an anaerobic fermentation, meaning that the solution is created in the absence of oxygen. The microbes in the leaf mold soil will feed on the nutrients in the crop residue, and they'll break it down into plant-available nutrients that can be absorbed via plant roots. The microbes in the leaf mold soil will feed on the nutrients in the crop residue and break it down into plant-available nutrients that can be absorbed via plant roots. So seal your container next and wait as little as 1 week before checking to see how the material have decomposed in the water. And during this time, you might also want to press down the plant matter and mix it up a little bit so that it's all getting decomposed. If you've made sauerkraut or kimchi, you'll know that you need to tamp it down so that all the cabbage is submerged in the water. Well, it's kind of similar with this stuff, except for that you're going to use the liquid. Once you're ready to use it, strain out the plant debris and the leaf mold particles and collect this stinky water. Now, this fertilizer is usable on probably 100% of the plants, and it'll work great. But what if I told you that you could make individualized fertilizers for each of your plants? Well, That is exactly what I'm telling you. This is perhaps one of the coolest parts about JLF. By collecting plant scraps and their fruits and fermenting them with leaf mold soil, you can make fertilizers that contain all of the nutrients that a single specific plant needs to grow. Young-Sung Cho, the inventor of JADAM, gives several examples about the nutrient composition found in his plant-specific fertilizers and how they are perfectly tuned to give back to the soil exactly what the plant used to grow in the first place. We do this in several ways throughout the growing season. Inevitably, you will prune your plants, and as you do, just collect that plant's crop residue, separate from others, and then make JLF from that and use that on your plants within a week or two of decomposing. The second way is simply that at the end of each season, we collect all the plant residue, chop it up, and make JLF that will ferment all winter long. This stuff can be used as a soil drench at the beginning of the season, before we plant anything in the ground, and we're effectively giving the soil the nutrients that the plants that we will grow there will need in advance. Like JMS, you will really need to dilute your JLF if you're watering it directly on your plants, so you don't overload your plants all at once. As with any homemade amendment, it's really hard to prescribe a specific amount and a specific dilution. There's just too many factors involved, like a ratio of plant residue to water, the square footage that you're watering on, etc. Our general advice is that you start heavily diluted and then work your way up or down. You can kind of test it, use it to test on a plant to see if it's too strong too. Too much nitrogen can harm plants and cause imbalances in the soil. And these concoctions are very strong, so they should be used conservatively. Some ways that you can apply JLF: you can apply it directly to plants, dilute it at least 1 to 10, but maybe start with 1 to 50 or 1 to 100 because they're very strong. You can apply it undiluted if there's no plants in the ground. We do this at the beginning of the season, starting before we have any plants in the ground. JLF is also great for using to charge biochar. Just soak it for 2 to 3 months to let the biochar absorb it. And of course, you can always pour leftover JLF into your compost pile to help it heat up quicker. Finally, we highly recommend that you save time by mixing JLF with any of the other liquid amendments. So JMS, JLF, and LAB, all of these are all compatible with each other and don't compete or negate each other. So just save time by adding in some JLF and LAB if you already have them on hand to your JMS application. Before we get to some common questions, if you found this video helpful, would you consider giving it a like and also subscribe to our channel so you can get more valuable content like this in the future? Some common questions you might have along the way could be, what if it molds? Or what if maggots get in it? These are two things that we've encountered. And according to Young-Sung Cho, these are not actually problems. The fermentation process is just doing its thing. The microbes that are developing are totally fine for your soil. The maggots do get pretty gross. They're completely fine. You just have to strain them out. But we would still recommend that you seal the container completely so that the flies don't get in there. It's just gross. Another important piece of advice would be to wear gloves whenever you're handling it. JLF is quite stinky, like really, really stinky. So you don't want to get any of it on your skin or your clothes or your Birkenstocks or anything, just on the soil. And that's JADAM Liquid Fertilizer, JLF. If you have any questions about how to make this or use JLF, please leave a comment and we'll try to respond to it. And also let us know if you'd like to see more content related to JADAM or Korean natural farming techniques in the future. We're by no means experts, but we do love this stuff. We want to share what we've learned so far. That's all. Thank you so much for watching.